VBC, Victory Baptist Church in Mendota, Illinois. I'm Steve Breedlove. I'm one of the pastors here. And just welcome today. I thank you for tuning in. Last week we had our drive-in service. We were excited to see the turnout and the feedback we received as well. A lot of people said they really enjoyed it. And this week we had to go back to this way because it's so blooming cold here in northern Illinois. Who would ever thought May, the second week of May, would have been 40 degrees? That's just too cold. But anyway, we're going to have service this way, and hopefully starting next week again we can get back out in our drive-through service and eventually get back here into the sanctuary and worship the Lord. I'm going to be preaching a Mother's Day message today. Last week when I told the church, I wasn't sure which direction I'd be going in. This week the Lord made it very clear to me that I need to preach a message today for moms, but also include there are wives. I'm going to use the illustration of Jesus and how he treated his mother. And I believe this message will touch you today and help you and to be more thankful and more loving and more kind to our mothers, but also our wives. I'm going to be in the book of John today, John chapter 19. Just two verses, 26 and 27. For those of you who like topical preaching, you will like this today. This is not my area of strength, I believe. I'd rather be an expositor. However, every once in a while, a topical message is needed, and this is the day. So, Shannon, this is for you. I know you will really probably enjoy this message today, and I believe it will be a blessing to you and hopefully to everybody who listens to this today. I entitled the message today simply this: Jesus Christ showed his love for his mother while on the cross. So in this text today, we see Jesus Christ in his third event on the cross of Calvary. And that is his love for his mother, Mary. At this time, she's about 48 to 50 years of age. And the women that were at the cross was 3. And of course, there was also John. But you know, the people who were at the cross at this time were there at great risk, because Jesus Christ was a revolutionary in the eyes of Rome, but he was also a heretic in the eyes of the religionists. You see, any supporters of Jesus who stood at the cross ran the risk of ridicule, but probably more important than ridicule would have been arrest. So again, the 3 women that were there, plus John, were there. I believe that takes courage. And I believe it takes faith. So, Pastor Steve, why were they there? Well, here it is. They simply loved Jesus Christ. They loved him. And I could preach an hour just on that. They loved him and also how he loves us. He had done so much for them that they were willing to stand by him at the end of his life, no matter the cost. I mean, the church ought to take that into consideration today. If they're willing to suffer severe persecution for being at the foot of Jesus Christ because of how good he was to them, then how much more should we be today when it comes to serving our Lord and our Savior? So while Jesus Christ was on the cross of Calvary, his thoughts were on other people. And that's one thing I've tried to teach Victory over the last 22 years of pastoring here, especially when something is negative in your life and you're going through a storm, a personal storm in your life. Oftentimes what helps me the most, and I believe it's illustrated in the text today, is to put our focus on other people. When we do that, it takes our focus off of ourselves and it puts the focus on other people. And that is exactly here in this text what Jesus Christ was doing. So again, his focus was on others and not upon himself. All that he existed for was for other people, not for himself. Even in death, his mind, his whole being was focused, again, on taking care of others. And in this text, right here, this third event was taking care of his mom, Mary. So Jesus Christ was touched by Mary's pain, but also Mary's hurt. In his last comments, his last moments, he made arrangements for her care. Now you got to understand something. Mary here is witnessing the crucifixion from the foot of the cross. Can you even imagine for just a moment how Mary must have felt? I just wrote a few things out for this message to try to help us a little bit, but this doesn't even compare to what she probably and was feeling in her life. She watched her firstborn son beaten. She heard the screams, the cries of agony as she watched her son being tortured to death. I can't even imagine. She could not do anything about it. She heard the swear words of the crowds. She heard the blasphemy from the people. She watched as they slapped him, beat him, cursed him, spit upon him. As the hours passed away, the agony increases as she looks at her son, beaten beyond recognition, the Bible says, withering in pain, and the crowd, unfortunately, loving it. I can't even imagine what Mary must have been feeling as she watched her son brutally murdered. So Jesus turns to John while he's on the cross, though, and he says in this text here this afternoon, this morning, "Take care of my mother." And he looks at his mother and says, "Let him stand in my place as your son." So John lived a very long time, and I believe personally he took care of Mary until she went to heaven. Jesus Christ is on the cross, bearing the weight of the sins of the whole world on his shoulders, and thank God for Jesus doing that for us. Yet he sees to it to make sure his mother is taken care of after he is gone. So you see, as God, Jesus is dealing with eternal matters. But as a man, he's showing all of us today, listen to me, all of us today how important it is to take care and to love our mothers. Now listen, this is a bold statement, but I need you to hear this. You cannot be willfully wrong with your mom and be right with God. That's a good word. You cannot be willfully wrong with your mother and be right with God. Willfully is the key word there. It means to cause harm against someone. It means to be deliberate against someone. So that's the key word there. So let me give you some examples right now. If your mother is alive, let me say this first. Regardless of her age and your age, you are to love her, and you can love her. So I'm going to give you some examples quickly, and then I'll let you go. Here's some examples. The first thing I want you to notice is love her verbally. Men have this philosophy, unfortunately. A lot of men do. Well, you know what? I don't have to say I love you. You already know it. I told you before I love you, and if things change, I'll let you know. A lot of men I've heard say that. A lot of men also say, well, I show you love, I just don't say it. And that may be true. But you know what? A woman needs to hear these words. I love you. Children need to hear it. And saying it makes you more of a man, not less of a man. And spouses need to hear it as well. That's one thing my family is good at. When Brandon was growing up, every day, without exception. Even today, when we see him, we see our daughter-in-law, we see our grandchildren, my wife and I, there's not a day that goes by that we do not say that we love one another. And that's the way it should be. So listen to what this military man said. A big, strong man says this. I enlisted shortly after Pearl Harbor. 36 days later, I was on my way to the Philippines. En route, the Philippines fell to the Japanese. And we were routed to Australia. 11 days after we landed, I met the most beautiful girl in the world. And I hope all men can say that about their wives. I feel that way. And I believe that God puts couples together. I really do. I believe God put me and my wife together because he knew what she needed and he knew what I needed. I thank God that he put me with Diane Breedlove. Well, Pitts, that was her maiden name. But anyway, it would be kind of weird if her last name was Breedlove. On the first day, he goes on to say, I told her I was going to marry her, and I did. 18 months later, while on a 10-day R&R leave from New Guinea. After more than 57 years of marriage and 2 children, my beloved Mary died after Christmas. Although we agreed that our ashes would be scattered all over the mountains, I could not part ways with her ashes. While Mary was alive, he said, she would frequently say to me, you don't know how much I love you. And I'd always reply, likewise. I never said the 3 words, I love you. Now her ashes are on my dresser where I tell her several times a day how much I love her. But you know, it's too late. Although I wrote poetry to her, I could not bring myself to say the 3 words that I knew, this is what he said, I knew that she wanted to hear most of all. As my dearest was dying, and we thought she was comatose. I told her, there aren't enough words to tell you how much that I love you. A few hours later, she whispered, not enough words, and then she died. The reason that I am writing this is to urge men to express their feelings while their loved ones are alive. And man, can I say the same thing as a pastor? We need to tell one another that we love them. There's not a week that doesn't go by, even in this church, that when I have church, I don't say, church, I love you. I thank God for the church family. God help us to say that we love. Young people need to listen to this. Young people struggle with saying, I love you. I've noticed here at the church, I'll say to somebody, I love you, and they don't know how to respond to that. We need to let people know while they're living that we love them. He goes on to say, I don't know why, but many men are reluctant to express their depth of their feelings. And he signed it, Missing Mary in Colorado. Folks, you need to hear that. Our spouses need to hear it. Our children need to hear it. Our mothers need to hear it. Some men would say, well, you know what, I'm just not tuned out that way or tuned that way. Well, then tune yourself around. It's not comfortable to me. Then get uncomfortable. We need to love our mothers, and I would add also in this text, in this message, also our wives. So love her verbally. But another thing we can love her, another way we can love her, is to love our moms physically. When was the last time you just gave your mom a big hug without asking for it? Without her asking for it? Or when's the last time you gave your mom a kiss on the cheek? She's the first person who ever touched you. She wrapped you up in her womb for months. And you came out and her first priority was to hold you. And she cuddled you. She stroked your head. She rubbed your feet. She held your little cheeks against her. She gave you a finger to grasp. In love, she did all these things, including grooming you with a lip finger. All moms do that. When you were little, she would say, give me sugar. And you would pucker up, and she would accept your wet, sloppy kiss and even say thank you. I see my grandchildren doing that all the time, even today. You give her bear hug so tight that she didn't have to hold on to you because you were holding on to her as she walked around. I see my second granddaughter right now as I'm preaching this message, always holding on to her mother. She changed your diapers, she potty trained you, and held the Kleenex for you to blow your nose. She wiped food off of your face years longer than she probably should have had to. She constantly touched you. And I'm going to tell you something, it would mean more to her than flowers, mean more to her than candy, mean more to her than going out to dinner if you would just learn to touch Mom. How do I know that? Well, being a pastor, I have been going to nursing homes and visiting people for many hours throughout the years of me being a pastor. I don't go as much as I probably should, I'll be honest with you, but I do go. And when I do go, over the years, it's been some hours involved. But when I do go, without exception, and Jay, you'll realize this as well when I say it, when this overweight pastor walks in there, this man walks in there, there's not an instance where there's a woman in there that doesn't reach out to touch me. A total stranger. They want to touch. They want to touch. You can tell that she's starving for that simple, innocent brand of physical love. And some of them are even so blind that they say you're good looking. Now, they got to be blind to say that to me. So you love her physically. You love your mom verbally. But love her patiently. Now, this is good. Because I think sometimes we often get impatient with our moms. I know I did. My wife and I went out last night and we got a little bite to eat. And I knew I was going to be preaching this, and I find myself, I'm not the most patient man. Unfortunately, I have some issues in that area I need to work out. My wife is getting older, I'm getting older, but my wife's hearing's not real good, and I find myself a lot of times getting a little irritated when she says, what? What did you say? And I always think, I said it already, but I need to be more patient. I would explain it to my wife last night, to which she agreed. She says, you're not the most patient man in the world. I have some good qualities, but that's not my strong point. I wasn't very patient with my mom sometimes when I should have been. And, God forgive me for that. I don't believe anybody is perfect in this life. But we do need to love our moms patiently. Mothers have an incredible job, and here it is, with no pay. No position in the business world, no position in the world at all compares to the physical, the emotional and the spiritual commitment that she has in motherhood. Nobody can impact a child like a mom. Listen to this poem entitled No Occupation. She rises up at break of day, and through her tasks she races. She cooks the meals as best she may and scrubs the children's faces. While school books, lunches, homework too, all need consideration. And yet the census man insists that she has no occupation. When breakfast dishes are all done, she bakes a pudding maybe. She cleans the rooms up one by one, with one eye watching the baby. The mending pile then she attacks by way of variation, and yet the census man insists she has no occupation. She irons for a little while, then presses pants for daddy. She welcomes with cheery smile, returning lass and lady. A hearty dinner, next she cooks, no time for relaxation. And yet that census man always says she has no occupation. I'm going to tell you something. Moms work a full-time job at home, and make no mistake about that. So don't you ever make the mistake of asking a lady, do you work or stay at home? Don't make that mistake. The only thing worse that you can ask her is when you're due and she's not pregnant. That'll get you in trouble too. So many ladies today have work on top of their full-time job. Are you listening to me? So here's the point. What are you saying, Pastor Steve? The point is simply this. In spite of all that Mom does for us, we often become impatient with her. And again, I would add wives to that as well. We get so used to her taking care of things and we come to expect it. And we get outraged almost when the clothes are still dirty, or something's not ironed, or your favorite meal is not on the table, or she didn't cook the chicken and Diane's going to laugh at this one the way that you want. You get the point of what I'm trying to say. She's picking up you kids at school because you don't like to ride the school bus, but she's scolded for being 5 minutes late. Listen to me. Love your mother, love your wife patiently. Because she's tender to your needs, there's no reason for you to take advantage of your mother. It's reason to be patient and to love her all the more. Somebody might be hearing this and thinking, man, it sounds like you were not very kind to your mother. That's not true. My mother lived with us for 8 years in her life. In the last year and a half, I took care of her while she was very ill. And there's a lot of things there that the Lord used me to help her, and she also helped me. But there are some things I need to improve on, and I hope this message helps you, because I always said if pastors get honest, it helps the people to be honest as well. But you listen to me, teens and you children out there, I want you to hear this. It is unfair for you to be more kind, more considerate, more patient with your friends and your friend's mother than it is your own. Same thing with the church. I often wonder sometimes why men sometimes will come in here and treat other women in the church and other wives and other mothers better than they treat their own at home. God help us. God help us. If you treated your friends like you treat your mom, you probably wouldn't have any friends. And if you treated their mom like you treat your mom sometimes, they probably would not let their children be around you. Your mom deserves better. She's not a rug to wipe every negative thought on. That's a good word. Listen to this for us adults now who are living, who have living moms, they're still alive. Love her patiently, this is entitled. This is a letter from Dr. James Dobson. A letter that was sent to James Dobson, I should say, from an 80-year-old woman on her birthday. And she says this, and I quote, "To all my children, I suppose my upcoming birthday started my thoughts along these lines. This is a good time to tell you that what I truly want are things I can never get enough of, yet they are free. I want the intangibles. I would like for you to come and visit me and sit with me and for you to be relaxed. We can talk or we can be silent. I would just like for us to be together." My mind is going back to my mom when she was alive. I can relate to this so much. My mom would always want us to be together and not hurry. "I need your patience," she goes on to say, "when I don't hear what you say the first time. I know how tiresome it is to always be repeating, but sometimes I must ask you to repeat. I need your patience when I think too much about the past. I need your patience because I have slowness and I'm set in my ways. I want you to be tolerant with what the years have done to me physically. Please be understanding about my personal care habits. I spill things. I lose things. I get unduly excited when I try to figure out my bank statements. I can't remember what time to take my medicine or if I took my medicine at all. I take too many naps. Sometimes sleep helps to pass the day. Well, there you have it. Time, patience, and understanding. Those are priceless gifts that I want from my children. Finally, in the letter the Apostle Paul wrote, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. She goes on to say, I can do that too. It's a wonderful feeling to know his eye is on the sparrow, and I know he cares for me. I guess being old isn't so bad after all. Love, Mom. You see, moms want for us to love them. Moms want for us to spend time with them. Moms want us to be patient with them. Here's another word. Love your moms attentively. Mothers listen to you as you pour out your heart. There's nobody that listens like a mom. Moms are always encouraging. She has a sympathetic ear all the time, and she always has. Even as an adult, and you want somebody to understand you and really be on your side and listen, she'll always be on your side. There was a documentary done not too long ago. A man was on trial for murder and he got convicted of it. And they interviewed the mom after it was all over with, and every time, without exception, she said, yeah, I know he did what he did, but he was a good boy. He had a good heart. Even though he may have killed 10 people, the mom stands up and says, he had a good heart. That's what mothers do. It's no wonder that we like to talk to our mom. Today, as I'm preaching this message, I left my home this afternoon to come here, and I could tell my wife was struggling. It's Mother's Day weekend, and she's missing her mom. She's missing her sister that also passed, and sister-in-law, just all kinds of garbage, and you go through it too. You understand what I'm saying. But she was struggling some, and we miss our moms. We like to talk to our moms. So those of you who have your mothers still, make time for your moms, because one day they're not going to be there. So she listens. Mom listens. Thank God for that. But now she has issues. And now it's time for you to be her rock. I'm talking about the later years. And it's time for you to sit back and listen. It's payback. It's payback time. You may say, well, Pastor Steve, she's always complaining. Yep, just like you did. She always talks about herself. Yep, just like you did. Over and over. I hear people all the time say, she tells me the story over and over and over again. Keep living, you will too. In their older days, our parents had, this is something I didn't think about, to be honest with you. And so I was digging this and doing this message, and this struck me, and I don't know why I haven't thought about it sooner, but I just didn't. In their older days, parents have fears and anxieties. It's true. The older I get, I realize that, and I'm only 51, but I think there's a little bit more wisdom in a 51-year-old than there's a 25-year-old. And most of the time. But anyway, the older I get, I realize that we're getting closer to the other side. And I can see fear sometimes in my dad. I can see anxiety sometimes in my dad, like, when is it going to happen? Things like that sometimes we don't think about when we're a little bit younger. But they do have some fears and anxieties. I'm not talking about a fear of where they're going. The Christian knows where they're going. But let's face it, I really believe people want to live. People want to live and be with their family, spend time with their family, spend time with their grandbabies. You know what I'm trying to say. So may we treat them, our mothers, and again our wives, as we hope to be treated when we are in their shoes. And again, if you live long enough, you will be in their shoes. So listen attentively, listen patiently, but also love her gratefully. This is good. An elementary school science class had been studying magnets, how metal objects are always attracted to them. At the end of the semester, the teacher put this on the exam, and she said, 6 letters, starts with M, picks up everything, what am I? Over half the children in the class said mothers. The word was magnet, but moms are known for picking up after us. She needs a sincere thank you, not just today because it's Mother's Day, but from a genuine, thankful heart. Here it is, when she least expects it. Brandon and Taylor, they'll be watching this. I want you kids to know something. You are living the best years right now. Jay, you are too, young man. What do you mean by that, Pastor Steve? You need to hear me. I'm not talking about financial. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this. Right now, you have all your children at home, Jay. Right now, Brandon, you have your girls at home, son. And Taylor, listen to me. Amber, listen to me. You also have your parents right now. There's coming a day when the parents will go. There's coming a day when mom and dad will pass on. There's coming a day when your children will leave your home. Although I like being at home with my wife, we have a good time, a good relationship, that empty nest syndrome takes its toll too. You need to hear me. Let's be kind to one another, y'all all right? And let's be the parents that we need to be. Number 6, love her generously. I remember several years ago, I bought my mom a watch for Christmas, Diane and I did, and she looked at it, and you have to know my mom. She looked at it and said, "Do you think I'm manly?" I said, "What?" She said, "This looks like a man's watch." And I said, "Oh, you don't like it?" She said, "Well, it looks like a man's watch." I want to tell you the story behind that. There was a couple watches that were sitting there, and of course I got the one that was a little bit cheaper. Had I got the one that was a little bit more expensive, it would have been the more feminine looking watch. I kicked myself for that today. By the way, I did take it back and get her another one. There's nothing too good for your mom. We could never repay her, but we ought to die trying before she does. She didn't spend on herself unless all your needs were met. She could easily do without, and now it's time for her to have something that she wants. She clears her schedule. Listen to this, so she can run you around. She gives up opportunities so you can have more opportunities. Boy, isn't that what a mom does? You guys all know the story. There's an apple pie sitting there, and there are 6 people at the table. She's the 6th one, or 7th one. She's going to give that pie to everybody but herself. That's just what moms do. I was watching a show last night where I thought it was kind of neat. The people were eating dinner. They have a rule at their house that nobody starts eating until mom picks up her fork. I thought that was kind of cool. Mom's the one that's getting everything ready usually. She's the one busting her chops to get it done. A lot of times, especially if you're not praying before dinner, which you should be doing, that's the least we Christians should be doing. Somebody may start eating before mom. And you know what? We should probably all not probably, Pastor. We should all be waiting to eat together. Love her generously. Last one, and this is from the Word of God, a command. Love her honorably. Exodus 20, verse number 12 says, "Honor your father and your mother, that the days may be long upon the earth." Listen to this. This is binding as long as your mother lives. Another command says, "Children, obey." That is non-binding. See, what do you mean by that, Pastor Steve? Brandon's out of my home now. Jay, you're out of your mom and dad's home. Brandon doesn't have to obey me. He's a man. He can do what he wants to do in his life. Jay, you don't have to obey your dad. If your dad comes to you and says, "Don't do that," you're a man. You can do what you want, what's best in your home. That's non-binding. However, honor continues. We are to honor our mother and our father. If the husband is the head of the house, then the mother is the heart. Do not break her heart. "Yeah, but my mother's not honorable." I've heard that before. Well, the Bible says nothing about the qualification. It only asks, is she your mother? By the way, it is only one of the 10 commandments where God includes a promise of blessing. Let me read you something and then close up this message. When the good Lord created mothers, he was into his 6th day of overtime when an angel appeared and said, "You're doing a lot of fiddling around on this one." Well, the Lord replied, "Have you seen the specs on this order? She has to be completely washable, but not plastic. Have 180 movable parts, all replaceable. Run on black coffee and leftovers. Have a lap that disappears when she stands up. A kiss that can cure anything from a broken leg to a disappointing love affair. And 6 pair of hands." The angel shook her head slowly and said, "6 pair of hands, no way. It's not the hands that are causing me problems," said the Lord. "It's the 3 pair of eyes that mothers have to have. 1 pair that sees through closed doors when she asks, 'What are you kids doing in there?'" We've all been there. When she already knows, by the way. Another in the back of her head that she sees what she shouldn't, but what she needs to know. And the ones in the front that look at a child when he goofs up and he says,